involves me.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now you have a story. Now you have something to complain about, to talk about, but not to the point where you should remove it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go to our phone lines. We've got Cecilia D'Anastasio, who wrote this piece for Kotaku. Thanks for joining us, Cecilia.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm curious, what was it exactly that had sparked your interest in re-examining FF11 in 2016?
I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy XIV, and something that was immediately frustrating to me was the fact that I didn't really have any opportunities to make the kind of friends that I had in Final Fantasy XI.
Mm-hmm.
And the more and more I played the game, the more I expected for some mechanic to be introduced, some sort of dungeon or anything that would facilitate that sort of socialization.
Yeah.
And recently I covered the Palace of the Dead patch, which I thought would be it. I thought it would be that thing, and it wasn't.
Oh, I think you and everyone else. I think a lot of us had really pinned a whole lot of hopes on Palace of the Dead, and not to say that it was a definitive letdown, but I think that it was not as well received in the community as other events have been, and it definitely didn't live up to expectations. So I'm sure that you're aware of the quote from Yoshi P that he said, moving into this patch and moving into developing content forward, that he'd be looking at drawing influence from this first wave of MMOs as well as modern and contemporary MMOs. What do you see what needs to happen with FF14 to be able to make that a reality? Because with all of the different tools that we've been given in FF14, I feel like that may not be capturable again.
I completely agree. I'm not sure if it is capturable again. I think that what did bring people together in Final Fantasy XI was the game's kind of objective flaws. The combat system was inscrutable. The quest system was inscrutable. Yeah. And I started playing before there were even exhaustive online guides.
Right.
And so there really wasn't a way to figure too much of the game out without just asking people, which is what created the incredible community. Final Fantasy XIV, on the other hand, everything about it makes sense. I mean, I say this in my article. It's like being on a cruise ship, and you're ushered to one tourist spot, you buy a gift, and then you move on to the next thing. It's totally seamless, which is great. It's a wonderful game, but it doesn't have the same flaws that facilitated those sort of connections.
I think that's a great point, because there's a great saying out there that says restriction breeds creativity, and I think that is no more true than in FF11. And we saw the community in the way that it would do creative things with jobs like Ninja that was never designed to be a tank, but yet they took and they ran with it and figured out a way to do blink tanking and ninja tanking and evasion tanking that was never an intention for the developers.
And even during the prime of the game, when we're like, oh, Ninja needs better tanking abilities, the developer's like, what are you talking about? Ninja's not a tank.
Exactly. And so you don't really have that. I don't think in the 3 years that we've been covering FF14 that a similar situation has ever arose, because everything is so rigidly to what the developer wants out of the game and out of the community.
1.0 was like that, though. I hate to keep going back there. Warrior was not a tank.
That's true.
Warrior was DPS, but everybody took that route, and it became a tank in 2.0.
That is also true.
I think that one of the best encapsulations of what you're saying is the Red Mage class in Final Fantasy XI too.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that was a class that was intended to be a mage, but it turned out to be everything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there were...
Too bad they sucked at Melee.
But, I mean,
that's debatable.
you had bards, you had bards that, served this very sort of flex position, red mages as well. Other jobs that came in later to FF11 also kind of didn't have a defined role, as we see with FF14 in the Holy Trinity that we have in healer, DPS, and tank. And so I guess my follow up to the last question: have we worked ourselves into a place in MMO design where we can't actually capture the same feel or vibe that these first wave of MMOs had, because we've had so many advancements, because we've had so many, there have been so many different things to come out and regulate, what is considered good game design versus bad game design. Have we just worked ourselves into a way where this is the only format that MMOs can now produce because an audience won't accept a deviation from that?
I don't know if I completely agree with that. I think there are a lot of really well-designed games for which developers leave a lot of room for players to imagine questions of lore, or just have like really inscrutable play mechanics that allow players to like have to come together and figure out these mysteries. So,
sure. In
terms of lore, I'm thinking about Overwatch, where there's these really intricate characters, but you don't know everything about their backstories, and that's led to a lot of fan speculation that's brought people together. Mm-hmm. When I'm thinking about play mechanics, have you guys played Hyperlight Drifter by any chance?
I haven't, no, but I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, Hyperlight Drifter is a very confusing and difficult game that doesn't really explain itself very well. But because of that, the Reddit community around it is extremely active and passionate about the game. I don't see any reason why that sort of like intentional withholding of information couldn't be applied to MMO development.
Well, the only reason that I say that is because MMOs have to meet they have to meet a regular expectation, which is money.
Yes, I was going to say, I think that's the biggest hurdle right now, is that WoW did it too well.
Yeah.
So now when you make a new MMO, even if it's successful with a subset of people, it's completely different, and they're having fun with it. If it's not hitting a certain mark that the corporate execs and the suits deem acceptable, it's a failure.
But every game,
how much did we make fun of WoW players on Final Fantasy XI?
A lot.
That was an inside joke.
Yeah,
a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.